Good afternoon. This is Rick J, your host, and welcome to our Santa Monica studio on Ocean Park, courtesy of Classic Monkey Productions. Today, our lucky guest speaker is the lovely Laurie. Welcome, Laurie, to our studio. Tell me, what is it you do? I heard that you're a model?
Yes, I work full-time as a model, and I also do spokesmodeling work.
Okay, today Laurie has graciously graced us with her presence to discuss pantyhose, a subject near and dear to, what else? Guys, because we love seeing pantyhose on girls, don't we, guys? Well, anyway, Laurie's something of a subject matter expert on this, having done a few videos of herself called the Pantyhose Review, which is a big hit on YouTube. But today, she's consented to an interview in which we will discuss pantyhose, the past, present, manufacturing, fashion, traditions, thereabouts, and why we as guys find it so attractive on women. All right, Laurie, tell me something about pantyhose.
Well, pantyhose have definitely had a popular following for quite some time, especially starting in the 1940s. Becoming very popular again in the 1960s, post-war.
Laurie, tell me, what did women wear before pantyhose?
Before pantyhose, they were wearing stockings, or what we would consider now to be more of like a legging or a thicker tight.
So then how did pantyhose get invented, and why were they invented?
Well, pantyhose were invented, I believe, it was in the late 1930s. By a company that first introduced nylon and lycra, and I believe at that time they were introduced because women started to wear shorter and shorter skirts, and they started shaving their legs, and to create a feminine and beautiful appearance, they started to wear pantyhose, and so they started to become into fashion.
Well, I've done a little bit of research before you got here. Always helps for a host to understand what he's talking about. According to the internet definition of pantyhose, to be attractive in appearance, ease the chafing between the foot and footwear, between the thighs, keep the legs and feet warm, or more important, I'm beginning to think that this last one is the most important, hide physical imperfections such as blemishes, bruises, scars, hair, or varicose veins. And us guys can't imagine any woman walking around there with hair on her legs.
Well, actually, before pantyhose became popular in the late 1930s, 40s, and going up to the 50s and 60s, women, their skirts were much longer, so they weren't really showing the leg that they started to in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and of course today. So I think pantyhose became a solution to a changing fashion trend.
Laurie, are you trying to tell us, your audience here, that women at some point in time did not even bother to shave their legs?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, that is definitely appetite suppressor there. So at what point did women feel the necessity to shave their legs?
I think women started shaving their legs around the 1930s. Before then, the line of a skirt was much lower. Women wore tights. There just wasn't the need for it, and it wasn't in style. And then it slowly started becoming in style. It was advertised that it was an upscale, classy thing to do, to shave your legs and wear nylons. And so that became the trend, which follows us even today.
Well, before pantyhose came out, what took the place of pantyhose? What were women wearing back then?
Well, before pantyhose, they were wearing long skirts, thicker tights, almost like what we would consider to be like leggings today underneath their skirts. It was not considered classy to wear a skirt that was, higher than calf there.
Then how did pantyhose get invented then, and do you know the year or thereabouts?
I believe it started in 1938 or 1940 when the first, what we consider to be pantyhose was first made.
All right. How was pantyhose manufactured?
Well, nowadays it's manufactured in a factory. I believe it just takes a few minutes to actually make a pair of pantyhose, and then it goes through a dyeing process. They have to put the gusset in as well, and it goes through inspection, which can take several hours.
Okay, my research shows that pantyhose had undergone some type of a research and development, but as a fashion per se really didn't come into its own until just about the mid 60s when the shorter hemlines came into fashion. What did they look like back then? Do you have any samples of pantyhose from that time period?
Yes, absolutely. During the 1960s, most people would say that pantyhose really had its rise to fame, claim to fame in a way. It was used as an everyday, piece of a woman's wardrobe. Here are some example packages from pantyhose's heyday in the late 60s and early 70s.
All right. Could you take out some and show us, a sample? Take it out of the box, and I'm sure our viewers would like to see what they looked like back then.
Absolutely. So this is a sheer to waist
I see the
trim fit.
I see the picture's very provocative.
Yes,
back
it's a very
then.
provocative picture. So this looks like a 1960s, early 70s package. You can see her like bouffant hair.
I noticed, Laurie, that packages back then of pantyhose tend to show a lot of models and very sexy poses, semi-dressed, and sometimes even nude. But I don't see it today. Why is that?
I think back then pantyhose were considered to be very sexy. It was something that was close-fitting to women. Guys found it to be sexy. Women wore it to look sexy in their short skirts. I think nowadays there's so many different things that we wear to be sexy that it's become more of just like a practical piece in a woman's wardrobe, less of a sexy item that it was considered back then. Here are some navy blue nylons.
Mm-hmm. Is there a difference, Laurie, between how pantyhose were made in materials back then and today?
Now there's more nylon and lycra. They're much more sheer. They used to be thicker back then. We're experimenting, with different materials.
Mm-hmm. Ah, see, very nice.
Mm. And of course in the 60s too there was a lot of different colors, and in the 70s.
How about a few more of those packages? We'd like to see the art a little bit up close.
Certainly.
I'm sure most of our viewers are guys here, so we'd like to see that. Ah, very nice.
That's another cute one. Wearing a nude colored pantyhose.
Oh, please, more samples.
There's another.
I like that one too. Guys, do you follow my drift? Any complaints? I don't think so. It's just a shame that we don't see this kind of artwork on pantyhose packages anymore. Do you presuppose that there's maybe a little bit of PC or political correctness element there that prevents that today?
I mean, definitely, there could be. Even women in the 60s, I've recently read, some of them revolted against pantyhose, even though it was or did become so commonplace in a woman's wardrobe. Some women during the 60s decided, they didn't want to shave their legs, they didn't want to wear pantyhose, they didn't want to conform, to what was considered to be ideal. So
I see that you're wearing a pair of pantyhose yourself.
I am.
Well, what kind of brand is it?
This is our Sheer Energy Legs brand.
Oh, I see. Can you take that out and show us also?
Thing.
What does pantyhose feel like on the legs? Is it comfortable?
I mean, it depends on the brand. Like I was saying, each brand would have a different material percentage that they would favor. So some are more silky than others. Others would be built to be a little more sturdy. If you meant to wear them in the workplace, for instance, you wouldn't maybe want them to be too thin or too sheer. So there's so many different brands to choose from today.
And you said there's a gusset. Can you explain to the audience here what a gusset is?
A gusset is also called a crotch panel or an underwear panel. Originally, when pantyhose were made, it was thought of that the gusset would replace wearing panties with pantyhose. I would say today, women choose to wear panties or not with it, but the gusset is there to protect a woman's private area.
Oh, I see. In your opinion, do women usually wear without underwear or with?
I think it can go either way, it would probably depend on what she's wearing. If she has a very close form-fitting dress, maybe she would choose to go without. And she does have the protection of the gusset in the nylons, so she could go without and not have to worry about anything in that regard.
Well, today I don't see many young women wearing, pantyhose, and it seems to fallen out of favor of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any ideas as to why that happened?
Oh gosh, well, I think fashion is very cyclical. We have things that come in and out of style, but everything seems to come back at a certain point. I would say that I have seen pantyhose make a resurgence in the last few years, but it came back as black pantyhose that women were wearing under jean shorts. I think it's just like selective things come back at different times according to fashion, and then they go back. Something else is in fashion, then it comes back again. So I think that pantyhose will make a resurgence at some point, and we already have seen it the last few years, just selectively.
Does it make for good socks?
Do pantyhose make for good socks?
Yes.
Well, actually, if you're from a colder part of the country, pantyhose are great for insulation.
Well, I'm sure some of the guys want to see. What does it look like on the foot? Can you show us?
Sure thing.
I'll do a quick close-up here for the benefit of our audience.
Many brands have a reinforced toe. This one actually does not. It
What
just
is
has
a-
the seam.
What is a reinforced toe?
A reinforced toe is where they make the fabric a little thicker around the toe, because that's an area that if you were to nick your foot somewhere, it could easily run. So it's to protect so you're able to wear it numerous times.
Oh, I see.
And it's become very popular, the reinforced toe.
Well, that said in mind, could you say that there are special pantyhose for special occasions? I don't think there's just one type of pantyhose. There are different types.
Oh, definitely not. There are so many different types for women to choose from. We have pantyhose nowadays that is meant to suck in the tummy, create a sleeker waistline in a tight form-fitting dress. We have pantyhose that's meant to be very sexy and sheer, almost so that it looks like you're wearing no pantyhose at all. There are others that have been designed to be thick and be worn for cold winter sports or just to be outside during the winter months. So you have such a variety nowadays. If you are wanting to buy pantyhose, you can definitely find something that suits your needs.
Do you have any recommendations for women out there, which ones to buy with which outfits?
Well, I'm a fan of black and nude pantyhose. I think the darker colored pantyhose definitely makes your legs appear a little more slim, gives you a real pretty silhouette, and you can wear them in complement to a lot of different outfits. I think the nude and sheer pantyhose will always remain the sexiest. I think men find them the sexiest. So I would suggest for a date or something where you want to look real sexy and hide some of your imperfections, that a nude sheer pair of pantyhose would do the trick.
As a model, are you required to wear pantyhose in any of your photo shoots?
Sometimes they'll have the models wear pantyhose if they want the legs to reflect a nice sheen. Let's say if they don't want to do a lot of retouching for the photos and the pantyhose are able to cover some of the model's flaws, they might choose to use some. It would depend on the job, but definitely I'm still asked to wear pantyhose for some of my jobs.
I see you brought some other pantyhose, the modern types. Can you show us some of those?
Yeah, definitely. These are some of the modern brands that you can find nowadays. Danskin is definitely a popular one. Here's Sheer Essentials. This is one of my favorites, Calvin Klein. And this goes back to what I was saying, that pantyhose have so many different purposes now. This one has the first ever invisible control top.
Okay.
So women may also choose to wear pantyhose because they want that sleeker silhouette.
Well, perhaps you could take it out of the package and show us.
Absolutely. You can see an example picture on the back. It says then, where it shows a little protruding tummy, and then now, where she has a real sleek figure. So these are meant to suck in the tummy, which I think that appeals to a lot of women. So pantyhose have kind of, gone on to tackle some other issues that women have besides just wanting to create a more flawless leg.
Oh, can you show us everything?
Absolutely. So these are a little more sheer than what I'm wearing even.
On what occasion would you wear those pantyhose?
I would say if you wear like an evening dress, something to look a little more sexy, then you'd want to wear something sheer that has a little sheen, much like these.
Oh, I see. That has a gusset too.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so you could choose to wear underwear or no underwear, especially if you had a tight dress that would show underwear lines. You might choose not to wear underwear at all.
Is there any difference in comfort, Laurie, wearing a pantyhose with or without underwear?
In my experience, no, but I think it would depend on the woman. It would be just up to the woman's preference.
I guess that segues us into our next topic of why do guys find pantyhose so sexy on a gal?
Yes. Actually, you'd be surprised. A lot of women wonder that. I think I understand why. I think anything that fits close to a woman's curves is naturally appealing to a guy. I personally feel like that's a major reason. Just like the mini skirt is popular or a form-fitting dress is popular, I feel like pantyhose are popular because they follow the lines of a woman's curve and they help accentuate her beauty.
Anything else?
I mean, those are my hypotheses, but I'm not a man, so this is what I hear from people.
Have any guys ever told you about pantyhose?
Actually, I've had several men kind of suggest that they do like pantyhose. It's a sexy thing. It's something that's considered to be feminine. Like I said, it follows the curves of a woman's body, so I can definitely understand why they find it sexy.
Well, what do you see for the future of pantyhose? Because I know it's kind of like fallen out of fashion, but do you think it'll ever come back into fashion?
I actually don't feel like pantyhose have completely fallen out of fashion. I still think that pantyhose has its place in the professional world. I definitely see businesswomen still wear pantyhose to, maybe not to be sexy necessarily, but to look polished and professional. I also think that pantyhose will make a resurgence just in everyday life, especially during winter months, because it does serve so many purposes for warmth, for protection, and also just to look pretty. I think something that accentuates the woman's body and her curves will never truly go out of fashion.
Well, thank you, Laura, for your time. This was our model, Laurie, who has graced us with her presence here at our Santa Monica studio. Thank you. That's all the time we have today. We appreciate it, and we hope you come back for a follow-up on pantyhose. This is Rick J., your host, from our Santa Monica studio on Ocean Park, and wishing everybody a pleasant day, courtesy of Classic Monkey Productions.
Thanks so much for having me.